Senate State and Local Government Operations Committee meeting, and we do have a quorum, which is 4 members. So the first thing that we have on our agenda is a substitute to House Bill 374. We can probably arrange for you to have one. Here you go. Aren't we nice people? Okay. Brad, there's a real big question here. Excuse me, Representative Thomas, there's a real big question about, your leaf blowing and the things there, but we'll talk about the rest of it. We talked about leaf blowing already.
Yeah, I love when things get blown away. So, is this mic on? So, I apparently am here to present LC 550091, a substitution for my bill HB 374. And it actually addresses 2 issues. One is the Leaf Blower Act. So, it sounds like you all have had those discussions. And I, in my committee, Government Affairs this morning, I can tell you that I was a big proponent of this bill. I sat on the study committee for electrification transportation with you, Mr. Chair, and one of the things that I think was fundamental coming out of that committee is the belief that we should have good energy policy that's inclusive of all forms of energy, and we shouldn't discriminate against any one particular form, be it gasoline or electric. So that's why you and I worked hard on setting up the infrastructure to make sure that there's things in place for consumer to make choices on electric vehicles. And I think the converse of that also has to be true, which is why I've been a big supporter of this leaf blower bill. And beyond that, I see that in Section 2, we have specific language regarding like gas appliances. I think gas appliances are things that are necessary. They're probably in, I would say, a majority of homes. Some are electric, some have some electric, some have some gas, or a combination thereof, or one or the other. But I think at the end of the day, we need to make sure we're protecting the consumer, and all the language that's in this bill does that. So at this time, I'd be happy to accept any questions. Have a couple more comments, but I can do it after questions.
Are there any questions for Representative Thomas on this? Senator Estevez, are you number 5? Number 1, okay. Well, that's a weird place to put you. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll give it a try. I'm going to try 4. Try that one.
4 it is. Got to change this label. Question about the Section 2. Mm-hmm. I know we had discussed leaf blowers in the past. I don't think this was in any of the previous versions that I've gotten. No governmental entity of this state shall adopt any policy that restricts or prohibits, and then it goes on. Can you talk more about the need for this, that restriction on what governmental entities can restrict?
Well, sometimes we partition separate layers of government, local government, state government, federal government, but at the end of the day, it's still government. To me, my people back home, government is government, okay? And what we need to do is we need to protect the people at home. This is about consumer choice and protecting the consumer and making sure they have energy choices that are available to them that make good free market sense. Let's just be honest. I mean, we have huge inflation. We've got, our people are getting beat up every which way. So taking away any option or forcing them to go to an electric option that may be more expensive to them isn't the right. So this just makes sure that we have consumer protections in place, that people can pick what energy source is best for them. And go ahead.
Senator Estevez, as you recall, you are correct. Section 1 was basically the leaf blower bill we heard earlier.
Right.
And Section 2 has been added to this bill, which I believe was Representative Anderson's bill that allows a consumer choice on types of fuel that they use for cooking or heating or whatever the case may be, and we're just piling on, as they say, and
Yep.
at what we do real well. And I know this is your first year, but we do this very well in the last few days of session. So
I can attest that the last few days of session have been very exciting with all these changes.
it'll only get worse.
Did that answer your question?
That did.
All right,
That
thank
did.
you.
Question, and I know that when the this bill passed the Senate, it had a sunset 10 years, 12 years, 10 years from now, 8.5 years from now. I was wondering if we'd be open to that.
I think Senator Steele has a little answer for you on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Estevez. During the House presentation of SB 145, a motion was made and accepted, not at my urging, but they just felt that the free market would catch up to that, and they made the decision without consultation to do that. And so because the guest appliance bill did not have the language on the sunset clause, they wanted it to, neither of them to have the sunset. So they voted to remove it, even though we had added it on the as an amendment on the Senate floor. The House Governmental Affairs Committee voted to remove that on both sections. And so this morning, when we presented SB 145 to House Government Affairs, they reinforced that.
Representative Thomas, we're in a unique position right now. I'm going to reach out to my legislative counsel over here to give me a little guidance. If we take action on this and do pass, and it passes, said it gets reported back to the Secretary of the Senate. If we wanted to do a substitute tomorrow on this bill, we would be not following proper procedure to do that. If we can have a meeting tomorrow.
Correct. Once it's reported out, it would have to be recommitted back before you can take action.
And we're not positive whether we'll get the ruling to have a committee meeting tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
We're trying to make it a Christmas tree.
I would expect as such. I don't know if you were in the governmental affairs over in the House side, so I understand.
And so that being the case, we're at that point where a little divine intervention would be good to know whether we think we can get that another committee meeting tomorrow to brighten our tree. It is spring.
Favorite time of year.
Yeah. So
I wore a bright shirt.
Representative Thomas, I don't want to hold this fine piece of legislation up on the fact that it may be a Christmas tree bill. So if your discretion said we can go one way or the other, but for me, I think it'd be best for our committee to move it forward, and then we can kind of.
Well, it'll come back. I'll have to present it on the House floor for agree, disagree. So, if I may, though, I would, in government affairs for the, it's SB 145, we kept the author's language in the bill I have some language that's actually been approved by GMA and ACCG. We come to an agreement with the annexation language.
Be happy to take a look at it and see if we can.
Now they're both here. I think they can testify to that.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we allow our friends at ACCG and GMA to talk to a little bit of language substitution here?
I'll move over.
You might have to give them a chair.
I was going to say, I can say, okay, all right.
Have you seen these? Are they okay? Yes, sir. Rushi, if you.
Rishi Patel, General Counsel of GMA. Yes, we worked with Representative Thomas and the members of the House Governmental Affairs Committee and Leader Abstration on language for many, many hours yesterday, and have come to agreement on, I believe it's ends at 1-2. Is that?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the 1-2.
That's the 1-2S. Yep.
You want to run or ask Sarah to get us a couple copies? Can you make us about half a dozen copies of that? What we're looking at is an amendment that's Amendment 470059, and I'm going to read the amendment for you. It's to amend Chapter 36, Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to municipal annexation of territory so as to provide for municipal de-annexation of property by application of 100% of property owners, to provide procedures, conditions, and limitations to provide for ad valorem taxes, so to prohibit de-annexations where there is outstanding municipal bond obligations, to authorize municipalities to continue to provide services to de-annexed property in certain circumstances. And basically, this seems to be an agreed upon. I think ACCG, if I could get you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Todd Edwards with the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. We fully support the language in front of you. I appreciate your consideration.
We'll get a copy of this back to our committee members, and we'll just add it to this language on this bill, and then we'll have a vote on the bill as amended or by substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you'll stand by for a few minutes, unless y'all have some copies in your pocket. Always have to wait on something.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I came colorful today.
I noticed that. Spring was sprung yesterday, and you just got out today.
Yeah, this just doesn't look good with my ties.
Representative Thomas, as an engineer wearing that kind of clothing, I'm not sure that's, I was going wild with stripes. I mean, engineers, we're supposed to just wear plain Jane. So.
Yeah. I'm emulating my hero in the house, Alan Powell, sporting my.
He is my state rep, and I'm fortunate to have him. So, I see Ms. Mitchell behind you from the city of Atlanta. I don't know if you're familiar with this amendment. Here that one of the things we wanted to make sure that this didn't put life back into a bill that has failed already. So, Senator Estevez, you have a question?
Yeah. While we're waiting, can you speak to the genesis of this bill and the purpose behind it?
So, is this one? Is this on? When you say this bill, I'm assuming you mean in totality or just my amendment section?
Only I have been blown away by the.
Give you something to do.
Well, trying to have a little bit of humor.
I'd like to understand the annexation piece.
Okay, so the de-annexation piece has been a request of the Board of Commissioners or Cherokee County for at least 10 years. It's been on the legislative agenda. I could start 3 years ago. This has been a process. But 3 years ago, several of us we had a House committee on annexation and cityhood. And during that process, one of the things that came up continually was about property rights. And better city services, or the city provides better services, but to me, it was always about the property rights issue. I think that one of the things that I truly agree with the GMA on is the fact that if someone wants to be in a city, they should be able to be allowed to be in a city. I don't think we should stop people. This is so nuanced. It's hard to kind of get to where I'm going here. But now, if that's true, my belief is I believe in parity in processes. I believe that if one thing is good, then the converse should also be good. However, in effect, that doesn't always work out that way. So we started off with a 20-page bill that had concerns, specifically about using the 60% method. So our first negotiation was we got rid of the 60% method. And after that, we had through our committee process, we had I guess 4 hearings in committee in the House before it went to the House floor, which it obviously passed. I think it was 144 to so many against, 20 something against. And but through that process, we boiled that bill down to 100%. It's very limited to just a couple parcels at a time that it's allowed to do per application. And there was some issues about, which I think has specifically was brought up thanks to the City of Buckhead movement, with regards to geobonds. So being that was one of the major sticking points, originally what we wanted to do was set up a special tax district that if people wanted to leave, there would be a special tax district set up to pay for the geobonds out on the property. But then there was questions with regards to requirement of having a resolution. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm doing really good here, man. Yeah. I've learned. I'm not a fast learner, but if you give me enough time, I'll figure it out. So because of that called into question, we said, okay, well, let's just take that off the table. So in one of our final negotiations, that was part of what happened last night, is we said, okay, if you have a geo bond, a revenue bond, such, then we would, you would just be exempted. And that was kind of where we got. And I feel like that's probably the best language that we're going to be able to put forward. So, at least at this time. Is that beginning at end? Okay.
So, just to double check my understanding, the municipality would have to agree to the de-annexation.
No, that's not the way that this works. So what it does is it sets up a third process for de-annexation. Okay. So everything else is the same. The de-annexation process in and of itself, the city would still be the ultimate on the de-annexation, but they would have to do it if it was approved through the county. Okay. And go ahead, Todd. I can tell you want to talk.
Under current law, if you're within a city, there is no process by which, if you want to de-annex, you have to have the city's permission. This bill removes the unilateral veto authority of the city, but puts in certain safeguards so the city can still object under what you'll see in front of you as health, safety, or welfare, which is relatively broad. So if they can prove that it's not just of harm to welfare of the de-annexing parcels, or to the city itself, I believe that language, then they could object. They could object to it. So, it does. Again, when you want to annex into a city, the county can't say no. There's a process and objection that's a little lengthy, but this kind of mirrors the process of annexation, but goes to de-annexation with certain provisions that you've tried to work out with you.
And I think that's the crux. Is this bill is really tailored for somebody that's out on the periphery of a city. I mean, obviously you can't create an unincorporated island, so it's somebody that a couple parcels on the edge of the city that maybe don't feel like they're getting the city services that they want, or for whatever reason they'd like to be de-annexed out of the city. This gives them an alternate application process, and that's beginning.
If I can interrupt just a minute, I think Senator Steele has a motion that he wants to make.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like consideration to amend LC 550091S as follows with the substitute using the language from AM 470059. On line 1, where it says amend blank, we will fill in amend HB 374. The LC will match to say 550091S by inserting the following. Customers following 1 on line 8. On line 8 of Amendment 470059, line 8 by inserting between line 63 and 64. On line 9, fill in the blank where it says section blank, write the number 3. Add all incorporated language. And then on page 4, line 78, the final line, by renumbering section 3 as section 4. Just for clarification, that way we pick up all of this and then add it as fully embedded with HB 374 LC 550091S. Make a motion to adopt those changes, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to amend the LC 550091S. And since we have great legal counsel here with us, I know you got all those numbers correct, and we can turn that back over to him. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? 2-1, and the motion passes. And one of the things that now we'll take up a motion on the LC 550091S as amended by substitute. So is there a motion? There's a motion from Senator Steele. Is there a second? Second from Senator Watson. Said that would be the Senator Watson from the 11th. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 2-4. Any opposed? 1 opposed. Said the motion carries. Said thank you for your time and
Thank you.
testimony, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all.